Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It is a new day. We thank the good Lord it's a new day. Thank God it is a new day. So good to see you. Thanks for stopping by again. It's me, WJ, again on our channel, One Life, Many Seasons. Hey, what do we have here? Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think there's anybody else that knows Kamala Harris like Tulsi Gabbard. Here she comes. She's got some warnings about Kamala Harris. But before we go right into that, let me just play this back to validate, to substantiate the fact that Tulsi does really know Kamala. Remember this?
Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response?
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response?
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Do you remember that? I've watched that over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, I've watched it so many times now. Sometimes when I need entertainment, I just go back to that video. Well, I wanted to play that back so you can see that Tulsi really knows what she's talking about when she says, I know Kamala. Now, here's the warning she's putting out there. So we about to watch that. Please put your comments in the comment section below and let us react. Let's have the discussion. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts around this? So let's just watch and react to this.
You and RFK are now part of the Trump campaign. Explain why. Why did you go with Trump?
David, the choice in this election is very clear, and the differences between President Trump and Vice President Harris couldn't be more stark. Frankly, to put it simply, the choice for the American people is a choice with Donald Trump, a man who values peace, prosperity, and freedom. He has a record that proves that. And Vice President Kamala Harris, whose record shows an increasingly tyrannical government undermining our freedoms. We are embroiled in multiple wars around the world and closer to the brink of nuclear war than ever before, and increasing economic hardship for Americans throughout these last 3.5 years that she has served as Vice President of the United States. The contrast couldn't be more clear. This is personal for me, this endorsement of President Trump, because as a soldier now for over 21 years, I've deployed to multiple war zones in different parts of the world, put my life on the line for the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. So it's important to me and to every one of my brothers and sisters in uniform that we have a commander-in-chief who values every one of our lives, who carries that responsibility as commander-in-chief very seriously, and will therefore exhaust all diplomatic avenues before seeing war truly as a last resort. And the last point that I'll make on this, that is another point of contrast, is President Trump showed through his last administration, not only did he not start any new wars, he took action to prevent them by courageously meeting with adversaries, allies, partners, dictators. He would meet with whoever he needed to pursue peace. Kamala Harris criticized Donald Trump for doing exactly that, which shows that if she's elected president, she will not do what is necessary in the pursuit of peace. And I am certain that she will lead us very quickly into a war to mask the weakness and insecurity that she feels and try to project strength using the lives of my brothers and sisters in uniform to do so.
And
I just wanted to pause that real quick, just in that moment, to say, Tulsi and all the men and women in uniform, thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I just had to say that, because if you hear the tone in Tulsi's voice, you can see she is passionate about ensuring we don't go to war, we have peace, and the American people are living their best life. I could hear it in her tone. She passionately loves this country. There's no doubt, there's no debate about that Tulsi loves this country. So when someone like Tulsi speaks about the two candidates, and there's a reason she has endorsed President Trump, I think we should listen, especially that she was a woman in uniform. So again, Tulsi, thank you so much. And for all the other people out there, men and women in uniforms, thank you so much. Let's just get back into it.
it's not like Donald Trump just sat on his hands when we were challenged abroad. I mean, ISIS is a perfect example of that. ISIS was supposedly an intractable problem during the Obama years, and he managed to wrap the things up pretty clearly, wrap it up in Syria and Iraq, where they were doing most of their horrible work in a matter of months. And he did it with very targeted, and he wasn't afraid to take on the Russians, by the way. He killed about 200 Russian troops, mercenary troops, who were in Syria during the course of that effort.
You know, that's an interesting contrast that you point out there between Donald Trump, who recognized the threat of Islamist terrorism and acted decisively to defeat ISIS. And you contrast that to what we saw during the Obama administration, and quite frankly, even with Kamala Harris, they won't even use the words radical Islamist terrorist because they're so afraid of being called Islamophobes. That's right. And under the Obama administration, they refused to go after al-Qaeda. They refused to go after al-Qaeda in Syria specifically. So you look at the contrast of these presidents, you look at Kamala Harris, who will not use those words and cannot be trusted to keep the American people safe from this continued and very real threat of radical Islamist terrorism, both militarily and ideologically.
Yeah. And, you know, you realize very well, because you were dealing with this in 2020 during your debate with her, how she tries to wiggle out of her past statements and do flip-flops in order, depending on which audience is in front of her. Now she's trying to appeal to a broader, more moderate group of American voters. So she's denying all sorts of things from her.
And I just want to just stop it for a second. That was the video, the initial video that I played at the start of this video. That's where you saw Tulsi calling out Kamala's bluff, saying, that's not going to fly with me. That debate, I tell you, I go back and watch it every now and then. So cleanly, neatly done by Tulsi. I've never seen somebody else bring down another candidate without any fighting words, with no yelling, no screaming, in a very polished way. She chopped Kamala down.
past. One thing that she denied essentially yesterday by not showing up at that memorial to the 13 service people who were killed 3 years ago was her role in not only the withdrawal itself, but the way in which that withdrawal was conducted. She kind of let it out in 2021. I want to play that tape and get your reaction. Roll it.
Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do.
You think she's going to try to wiggle out of that because it's on tape?
Of course.
Of course. It's like every other major position that she has taken that has turned out to be such a disaster for the American people and our well-being and our national security. It is disgusting to me, David. It is maddening that not only has she was basically silent. Okay, she put out a little statement on a piece of paper yesterday, but why wasn't she out there at Arlington Cemetery? Why hasn't she reached out to those Gold Star families of the 13 men and women who were killed in that disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal? That, as she said, she was the last person in the room to speak to Joe Biden when he made that decision, and she's good with it. Why hasn't she called them to check on them, to apologize to them, and grieve alongside them for their loved ones who will never, ever come home? This is yet another example of why Kamala Harris is unfit to serve as our president and commander-in-chief, something I've been warning the American people about going all the way back to 2019.
Now, you did pin the rose on her for her past statements and contradictions back in 2020. Are you going to help, or are you in the midst of helping former President Trump as he prepares for a debate with her?
Well, President Trump is ready to debate Kamala Harris today.
I'm sure he is.
There's no doubt about his preparedness. Any ability for me to offer some additional help will only come from my experience of having been on that debate stage with her, knowing how, as you said, she's going to try to wiggle her way out of her very real record that she's had over these last 3.5 years. And as we saw in her speech at the Democratic convention, we've seen how she says, well, we stand for freedom. I'm going to be a president who champions freedom. Meanwhile, she, even as Mark Zuckerberg just pointed out, she and Joe Biden have used them to do their dirty work in censoring Americans' free speech. She has labeled me a domestic terrorist, put me on a secret domestic terror watch list because of my exercise of free speech and exposing her record. So whether it's freedom, democracy, border security, rule of law, war and peace, what she says, her record is the exact opposite.
Yeah. Now, we talked about your record not only with Congressman Walsh, who's an old friend of yours from your days in Congress, but also with the gentleman who preceded you. But how did 12 months in Iraq? You were there, incidentally, the same time period that my son was there. He's a Marine. He's in a different outfit, but he was there at the same time. How did that inform your view of our role in a very dangerous world, and might that play a role in the Trump administration if he's elected?
You know, I served in a medical unit there, David, where every single day I was confronted with the very high human cost of war. It was such a life-changing experience for me that made it so that when I came home from that deployment, it motivated me to try to find some way, shape, or form where I could help influence and impact and make those decisions about war and peace, about where our men and women in uniform are being sent into harm's way, because I saw up close and firsthand the war profiteering of the military-industrial complex. I saw politicians who would fly in, take their photo op, and leave, who voted to start that war that took so many American lives, and the hypocrisy that they say thank you for your service on Veterans Day, and yet they will not hesitate to use us as cannon fodder, essentially, to advance their own personal, political, or power-hungry goals. So President Trump understands this. Obviously, I have had a different experience, but what I witnessed at Arlington Cemetery yesterday morning as he spent hours, David, he spent hours with these Gold Star families. There were 2 survivors of that attack at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan who were severely disabled for the rest of their lives. He understands the gravity and the seriousness of the commander-in-chief's responsibility, and he's eager to take that responsibility back to stop these unnecessary wars of choice, to walk us back from the brink of nuclear war and put us back on that path towards peace, prosperity, and freedom that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have so completely destroyed throughout these last 3.5 years of their time in office.
But it is.
You know, what I find really crazy, the people that say they love America, they just say just words. Their actions don't show it. The Democratic Party. They're just a bunch of users and abusers. They complain about President Trump. He doesn't love America. He only cares about himself. But yet President Trump is the one we find doing all types of things that you can see a true American who loves his country. Visiting this home, visiting people on a personal level, going to events. And he's not even the current president. He's not the current sitting president. He's a former president who will be the next president again, number 47. But the people in the office, you can't even find them doing anything. They pick and choose. Even to debate, they picking and choosing. I just never understood. I think Congress needs to set the debate terms that nobody, no candidate can come and move. It is what it is. 3 debates, you show up. If you have a no-show, you automatically disqualify. Next man up. I cannot believe this candidates are picking and choosing what they want to do. Mics on, mics off, stand up, sit down. What the heck? You serving the people. This is not about you. I just never understood. What do they think? Well, there you have it. Tulsi Gabbard. Again, I don't know anybody who knows Kamala like Tulsi. So I could say whatever she's saying. She means what she's saying, and she's saying what she means. So I say, listen up and pay attention. Here's my final thought before we just close this out today. Somehow I wish, hypothetical, not going to happen. Somehow I just wish President Trump had picked Tulsi as his VP and Biden was still running. Could you imagine what that vice presidential debate would look like? Tulsi Gabbard versus Kamala Harris. I think the whole world would be watching that one. As a matter of fact, we may even have to ask to just have one more presidential debate and have 2 vice presidential debates just for that, so we can have a good time. Hey, please put your comments in the comment section below. Let us know what you think about this whole thing. Tulsi Gabbard giving her warning about Kamala Harris. And I think we need to pay attention to it. It is urgent. We need to pay attention. Thanks for stopping by again. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll be coming back with more pieces. You know how we like to close this out. We just like to remind ourselves that we always remember that we got one life with many seasons. So let's make the best of it. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. You keep smiling. You take care now. Bye-bye.